Yo, this is Flip Gordon. You're listening to the Top Rope Nation podcast.
Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Top Rope Nation. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
Guys, we have made it to episode 100. It has been done. If you ever doubted us, we're here. We're in the triple digits. Ladies and gentlemen, Top Rope Nation, episode 100. My name's Ryan Drosty of comicbook.com. I'm here with Justin and Kyle, as always, and this show's been a long time coming. We've had some layoffs here and there, but we've pretty much been back at it now for several months, each and every week, and we've kind of had this date circled on the calendar for a long time. I knew at the end of May, if we kept going every week, that's when we'd hit episode 100. So here we are. I'm going to throw it out to the guy who's been with me on the shows more than any other host or guest, Kyle Ross. Kyle, how's it feel to hit episode 100?
I never thought we'd get here. but, you know, with a tear in my eye, I've got to say, this is the greatest moment of my life.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Justin joined. We're going to talk a little bit up front here about the history of the show, because some of you have been listening to this.
That was podcast. Spontaneous, by the way. That just came to me. I'm very impressed with myself.
That's awesome. I thought you had that planned out.
No.
We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Top Rope Nation, though, guys.
Scripted promos suck.
That's true. We're going to get into a lot of that tonight. We're talking about Dean Ambrose and his interview with Chris Jericho. If you haven't heard it, you got to hear it. It's awesome. We're going to break that all down for you tonight. We're going to talk AEW Fallout. We're going to talk about NXT TakeOver 25 this week, and that's all on the docket tonight. But we wanted to lead off kind of talking about the history of the show, how it came about, because a lot of you have been listening to this show since the very beginning. We got some dedicated listeners. We thank each and every one of you for all your support, and we've never really done this before, so why not talk about how we got to episode 100? If you don't want to hear it, go ahead and skip forward. No, no hurt feelings here, but we thought this is the time we got to talk about where this crazy show came from. And Justin Joint, you joined us at episode 20, so you've been along for most of the ride at this point. How's it feel to hit episode 100 for you?
Great, man. Very, very excited to finally get here, and looking forward to the next 100.
Hell yeah. So the planning for this show, guys, I would say it goes way back, but I really started planning Top Rope Nation in about 2014, which was around the time I launched Top Rope Press, which was a wrestling news, features, results website that I ran for 4 years, from 2014 to 2018. So when the show first started, and the show was pushed really hard on that website. And when I launched the website, I'd been involved in writing wrestling, covering wrestling for many, many years. And I wanted to try my hand at starting my own site. So started Top Rope Press, and I always wanted to start a podcast. I had written for some other sites that had podcasts, and I would do guest appearances here and there, but I always wanted to try my hand at doing one myself. I had a little bit of experience in mixing audio and stuff. I mean, that's your behind the scenes right there. I'm the guy that mixes it each and every week as well. And I'm kind of over these last 100.
Justin, I'm on the other hand, barely know how to use the computer.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, though, I want to get into this because you had some history podcasting, and it was kind of interesting because you started writing for Top Rope Press maybe in 2015, and I don't recall exactly how.
It might have been 16, I think.
Might have been 16? Okay.
Yeah, because I think we were bitching about the WrestleMania in Dallas.
Okay. And I don't even I remember getting the email from you that you wanted to write for the site. I don't remember how you came across it, but I remember in the email you sent me, you had mentioned like we had this perspective podcast on the horizon. There was a section on the website that was going to be launching soon. And I think you mentioned to me, I have some history in podcasting. I'd be up for that at some point in time. Do you remember how you found out about Top Rope Press and how joining the site all came about? Because I mean, without that, this broadcast is way, way different.
A buddy of mine for a couple of years, I mean, there's never been a year where I haven't followed wrestling. I think the closest thing would maybe be like 2009, but even then, like, I still followed it fairly regularly. But, I kind of, maybe that was an interesting time to do so, but I just ramped up my wrestling fandom again. Probably had something to do with the fact that I was married, living comfortably with my wife, all of a sudden, hey, that's conquered, now it's time to, I guess, find a hobby. And buddy just shared it to me, and I was like, man, I need to like write about wrestling or something again. I need to talk about it on a weekly basis. I have takes, and I think a buddy of mine just forwarded me your info. He's like, oh, I saw this.
Nice.
Literally that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Justin was right with Top Rope Press from the start. He was one of the first writers I had in there in 2014 when I was trying to come up with the name for the website. He helped me kind of come up with that. I remember we were texting back and forth. And Justin, what do you recall about writing for Top Rope Press there at the beginning?
I had so much to say at the start, and then I got it out of my system pretty quickly and realized that I am not very good at writing.
You had some entertaining columns. So Top Rope Press is not up anymore. If you go to topropepress.com, it goes right to the website or for the podcast now. But if you go on like the internet Wayback Machine, you can find the website, and you can find Justin wrote an article. It was like coming out of the closet. I'm a wrestling fan. It was hilarious. Like one of my favorite columns anyone ever wrote for the website. And honestly, the website had a lot of growth. We got into like Google News. We were doing really well in page views and everything. But 4 years of running, it is really stressful to run a website. I mean, I was on the technical side. I was writing. I was editing. And props to anyone that does it, because I also work a full-time job outside of this. And when I started having kids, it was tough to balance everything. I started to lose the passion for running a site. Like I wanted to continue writing, and that's why I'm writing at Comic Book now, but I didn't really want to run a site anymore. But I wanted to continue the podcast for sure, because I love doing this show. So when we started the podcast in 2016, I guess the website still had 2 years left at that point, but Top Rope Nation came from Top Rope Press, and started it out that we did like a trial run. If you view our archives, the very first show is a WWE draft post show. It was right when they started the new brand split. And the host at the time was myself and a guy named Jason Stout, who was an associate editor on Top Rope Press. And we did that episode. That's not like a numbered show. It's just like a post show. And then we did Top Rope Nation episode 1. And Jason was the co-host on that too. And then Jason, who actually still listens to the podcast here and there, I know, because he tweets us once in a while, had a little, he just wanted to get away from wrestling, had a little falling out, whatever, no hard feelings, and didn't want to podcast anymore. So at that point, I reached out to Kyle, and from episode 2 on, Kyle Ross joined Top Rope Nation. So he's been here for almost the whole thing.
Well, no, I think I missed a few, like when Justin first started.
Yeah, you've missed them like here and there, but you started with episode 2. That's what I'm saying. And that was episode 2 was August 4th, 2016.
Yeah, it was just this past fall when I stopped being a pussy and decided, I could still podcast and football season.
Yeah, I used to drop out like during business season, but it was. Kyle, you've had some background in podcasting. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. I think, didn't you kind of go to college for broadcasting for a little while?
I did go to a local broadcasting school.
That's right.
I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody if they're listening, but hey, whatever. Nor would I recommend getting a degree in political science from a 4-year university. So I'm really hit all the trifectas, but I'm sitting here talking to you guys and couldn't be happier. So my favorite time of the week.
Yeah. So Kyle, I mean, he was a logical choice to start off, and I think we did a pretty good job right from the start. But man, I mean, like anything, with more practice, you get better and better. If I listen to those early shows, I'm like, man, I think I'm a lot better at hosting than I was back then. Like, I don't think I was bad, but I feel a lot more comfortable now.
And then, and there's the chemistry now. I think we all have. together. So it takes a while to hit that.
Well, I mean, when me and Kyle started, we had never even talked before. You know, it was
I think
just
I think we had emails, and I think we had one phone conversation. Like like when you asked me to do it, like it was kind of like, hey, can you do this? And I was like, yeah. And I believe I was actually drunk at the time at a bar when you asked me to do it.
Otherwise, maybe you wouldn't have said yes.
Yeah. I was actually. What was that? I think it was my buddy. I don't know. It was like I just remember sitting outside drinking. And I was pretty hammered.
What else is new?
Yeah.
And Justin was one of our most dedicated listeners from the very start. Justin would always text me every time a new episode released about what was going on and what he thought of the show and everything. And so when we expanded the show, I think it was in, I got the date written down here. It was January 13th, 2017, episode 20. Kyle dropped out that week. And Kyle, your availability, I remember that whole month was not very good. So I needed a co-host. I wanted to put out some content. Mr. Justin joined.
You know why? I also was moving that at that point in January.
That's right.
17. Yes.
That's right. So Justin jumped on, and I remember I loaned you like an extra microphone that I had as we started.
Yeah, like one you'd use for gaming.
Yeah, it wasn't very good quality, but it got the job done. If you listen to those shows, you kind of have like kind of a tinny sound as you're talking. But how nervous were you on your first episode, Justin? How'd you feel about joining the podcast?
Oh, super nervous. I was probably nervous for like months. And actually, the only way I got over it was I had to stop going back and listening to the episodes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I hated hearing myself. So then I was fine after that.
Yeah, it was. You stepped in for like the week, and we weren't really sure if it was going to be permanent, I don't think, at that point. And then we decided, why not make this a 3-man show? And we pretty much rolled with it ever since. And so like for the next couple of years, Top Rope Press was still online, and the podcast was always pushed on the website. And the website, like I said, was doing good page views. We actually grew to a point where I had to like upgrade our hosting plan, which if anyone's ever ran a website, that gets very expensive. And before I had to upgrade the hosting, we were making like decent enough revenue where I could pay the writers a little bit and actually make some profit on the site. But then we got to the point where I had to upgrade the hosting because we were doing so many hits, but then the ad revenue didn't keep up. So then we were like in the red, and it got to the point where I had to shut it down. Now it was a little hard on the podcast, to be honest, because that website was so well trafficked that it helped our downloads quite a lot. Like those early shows are still by far our most downloaded ones. And when I shut down Top Rope Press, it kind of felt like with the podcast, we had to regrow our audience, and we're still doing that. Now we've had several months in a row now of continued growth, which is awesome. Thanks for all of you tuning in. But this is like why I really harp on every week, subscribe on iTunes, leave us a rating, because we got to move up the rankings to get in front of new eyes. I mean, the show has been around for several years, so it's hard for us to rank highly because, we're a pre-existing podcast. If there's brand new shows that get a lot of reviews and subs and stuff, they rank high right away, but we've already been in the system for so long, it's a little more challenging. So I noticed right away when we shut down the website, the downloads, like really fell off, and now we've kind of built it up again. But it was a really good vehicle to have Top Rope Press pushing us. But after that, like it got pretty difficult for a while, but I feel like we've kind of regrown the show from the ground up. So
and this week we will defeat Talk Is Jericho as the most listened to wrestling podcast in the internet.
God, I could only wish. Do you guys have any favorite podcasts that we have done, or any memories you wanted to share of the show over the years? So like I said, we've been doing this for almost 3 years now, off and on. Let me throw it to Kyle first, because we're kind of talking off air. I think you have a few things prepared here.
I thought our WrestleMania preview show, the one we just for this past WrestleMania, I could not tell you the week, sadly, but whatever our preview episode was for WrestleMania 35 may have been our best episode.
That was a fun one. I remember that.
But I'm predicting tonight we'll give it a run for its money.
We got some stuff prepared. This is going to be a good show.
I'm giving a career best effort tonight, I believe, for episode 100.
Justin, any personal highlights? Doesn't have to be a specific episode, but any favorite memories from doing the podcast?
Well, just for the record, since Kyle's going to be putting on a show tonight, I plan on phoning it in as usual. Really the only big one that comes to mind.
I should skate.
The only big one for me that comes to mind is my my drunken rant at the end of like a 2-hour episode where I predicted Gargano.
Yes. that was a great show. Yeah. I got to say, like, we had some technology mishaps, but doing the live cast here in Iowa when Kyle was in town, that was pretty fun to all sit around the table together and do it in person. We didn't record one WrestleMania weekend, but obviously when we all met up there, that was awesome weekend. I've loved, we did some co shows with Derek Chappelle's podcast back in the day. I know we did a WrestleMania preview with those guys, and I guess that would have been 2017. That was a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the interviews we've done. We've had Liam O'Rourke on a couple times. You're going to hear from him. He called in and left us a message for the 100th episode. The second time we had Liam on, when he was kind of responding to Eric Bischoff's ridiculous comments on his book, that was a really good show last summer. I liked that one a lot. Flip Gordon was a really good interview we did on episode 50. That was a good one. That was right after we came back from a hiatus. So we pretty much did the show consistently from the summer of 2016 until the fall of 2017. And then at that point, you both had children and everything got really busy and we were off for a couple of months. And then we brought it back in early 2018 and we pretty much had it all the way through 2018, pretty much every week. And then I had my second child last fall and we kind of did like one show a month for a couple of months. And then since January this year, we've been back at it full time. So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to do this show with me. It's been a lot of fun. I hope we can continue this for the foreseeable future. I can't think of two better guys to talk wrestling with every Thursday night. Kyle, tear to your eye.
Yeah, I'm getting a little weepy, man. I'll tell you what, feels like the Rhodes family.
It's true. It's true. I mean,
the Earps are blood. The Kennedys are blood. Top Rope Nation is blood.
It's true. I mean, we've really connected doing this show over the years now. And I've known Justin for a long time. We talked about it on this show, but there was many years where we weren't really in contact. And then we got back in contact around the time when Top Rope Press launched and everything. And you guys have become two of my closest friends doing the show. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. One big thing for me is there's been a handful of times where I have come into the show like just in a bad mood, had a bad day, didn't want to talk about wrestling. And then by the time we ended the show, I didn't want to stop talking wrestling with you guys.
Yeah, love it. I mean, when you become an adult, you have a family and you have kids, you don't really get out very much anymore. And this is kind of a good escape for me every week, at least. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I look forward to it because of that too. So we opened up the phone lines this week. I talked about this on the podcast last week. We're going to kind of sprinkle these in throughout the show. We had some phone calls from our longtime listeners, some former guests, and let's go to the first batch right now of messages we got congratulating us on 100 episodes.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, this is Brian in Cleveland. I just want to give a congratulatory 100 episode shout out to Ryan, Justin, and my man Kyle, who I've known since '94 when we played on a very underrated intramural basketball team, which he carried us in the middle. Podcast is phenomenal. The content, production, agenda, and the marketing are truly top rope. We talk about hundreds, in my life, geez. I struggle to maybe keep a girlfriend for 100 days or last in the bedroom for 100 minutes. So, hey, you guys outlasted Flair in with those 77 days he held the WWE title from 92 in that Royal Rumble in January in Albany, New York, which is actually the last time I had a girlfriend for over 100 days and maybe lasted 100 minutes up until losing there in WrestleMania 8 to Randy Savage. But you outlasted the legend in that regard, and I hope to hear you guys for another 100 years. So with that in mind, boys, girls, fans of all ages, Top Rope Nation potties, when Kyle says on the podcast that is another podcast for a different day, he's not lying. At TRP Kyle. Woo! And I'm out like the trash on a Thursday.
What's up, guys? This is Joe Dorian. I just wanted to stop by and say, Ryan, Justin, Kyle, from the bottom of my heart and soul, congratulations, Top Rope Nation, on 100 episodes. Outside of the times where you guys had me on, and I completely tanked the quality of the show, the other 995 episodes have been just stellar performances. You guys have become really my favorite wrestling podcast. You've become something I look forward to each and every week. So again, congratulations on hitting 100 episodes, and I can't wait for the next 100. Keep up the good work, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you for the kind words. We'll put some others in here in a little bit. I think we got eight or nine messages to share tonight. So we'll be coming on throughout the broadcast. But as we get to the agenda tonight, I do want to say, again, if you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, subscribe, leave a rating. As I talked about a minute ago, helps the show out a lot. Check out topropenation.com. We've got links there to all of our merchandise, our shopping links. That's a good way to support the show. And lastly, patreon.com/topropenation. Each and every week, we live stream as we record. That is exclusive to patrons of the show. $1 a month gets you our live stream every week. You get the show a day before the general public. And then we have a $5 tier. And until the end of June, so until June 30th, if you sign up for our $5 tier, not only will you get the live stream every week, not only do you get Top Rope Nation Classics, which we are recording, I think this weekend, hopefully, Bash at the Beach 96, a review of that old show, Top Rope Nation Extra, where each and every month we will be reviewing the pay-per-view broadcast. Those two podcasts are exclusive to Patreon. You will also get a free Top Rope Nation t-shirt mailed to you if you sign up at the $5 tier. So think of it this way. You sign up for $5, you get a t-shirt, you get the exclusive content. You can join us each and every week and see what this is all about. If you don't like it, cancel after a month. But I think this is a good way to see what we're doing on Patreon. And I got to throw a shout out to our newest patron. He just signed up today, Sean Skelton. Thanks a lot for joining at the $5 tier. Sean will be getting a free t-shirt in the mail in the coming weeks. So thank you very much for that. So all the rest of you, if you want to join up, patreon.com/topropenation. All right. I think we are leading off with the Dean Ambrose / Jon Moxley situation.
I think that would be a good place to start, don't you?
Yeah, this is the big topic in wrestling right now. How could it not be? This is one of the most amazing interviews I have ever heard. Other than the interviews conducted here on Top Rope Nation, of course. One of the most amazing wrestling interviews I've ever heard on the Chris Jericho, Talk Is Jericho podcast this week. I guess it was recorded just before Double or Nothing. And the former Dean Ambrose lets loose. It is a almost 2-hour behind the curtain look at everything that was wrong with his time in the WWE.
You know, but as far as like the let loose, like it was, and I'm not the first person to say this, it was far more measured than like CM Punk.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like CM Punk, it was very much like, you know, his love for the industry was dead. And he very much, you know, wanted to start some shit with what he said. You know, Ambrose was grateful to his time. I mean, you know, he said he met his wife there, if nothing else. But, you know, I mean, yeah, his critiques, and we'll get into this. I you know, I'll allow me to be the last to say, you know, this interview more or less was just a confirmation of a lot of stuff we've heard about the WWE creative process. What did he say? It was fundamentally flawed or broken.
He said multiple times on there, like, Vince, your creative process sucks.
Yeah. And it's pretty jarring to hear a top guy say that.
Yeah. Justin, your initial reactions to the Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley interview?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines as it felt shocking, but at the same time, it's like not really all that surprising. You know, it's all kind of stuff you'd expect. I guess the surprising stuff is that, you know, if a top guy like Jon Moxley is, and not only that, but like you have to say, like, what got him signed is is his promos and his character work and like CZW. And then you bring him in and you completely handcuff anything he can do with that creativity. So it was just weird seeing somebody who you have to think has some sway in the company just get completely handcuffed.
Yeah. He's a super creative guy. It was frustrating listening to him go through, like, especially when he was injured and he talked about how he kind of like regained his love for wrestling and he's watching classic wrestling match. He's watching wrestling from all over the world, indies, every promotion you can think of. He's coming up with all these ideas of how he's going to pitch his return to Vince McMahon. He flies out to Connecticut to personally meet with Vince to pitch his ideas, and they don't let him do any of that. They bring him back, and his character is as boring as ever. And he was bored with it. I was bored with it as a fan. I always thought he could do a lot more than he was doing on TV because I had seen his indie work before he joined WWE. And so for me, Ambrose was always kind of one of the more disappointing people in the WWE. And that was not his fault. It was how he was being used. And it really struck me how a lot of what Ambrose said or Moxley said in the interview was like the stuff that fans always complain about and like what they think is wrong with the WWE. He basically confirmed almost everything. Like everything that fans think is accurate. That's exactly what's happening. Everything's overproduced. Everything's overscripted. Vince has his hands on everything, and that's one of the big problems in the company. I mean, anything in particular, Kyle, that he shared that really jarred you the most?
Yeah. There's one. I want to say this. It's going to be interesting moving forward. And I think a lot of this, we were talking about this via text, the three of us, based on how Moxley performs in AEW moving forward, is that going to lead us all, and if he does well, it probably should lead to kind of a critical reevaluation of him in WWE because, the reality is if you're really miserable at your job, you're not going to perform well, no matter how talented or not talented you may be. Mm-hmm. And, maybe, and this is something I want to get into momentarily, maybe there are a lot of others like that too. In that filming. I mean, but the most jarring thing for me is, the three of us were texting at some point this week while WWE TV was going on. I can't even remember if it was Raw or SmackDown, but listening to Moxley talk, I think that, again, jarring is actually a word I had in my notes, is that Vince and maybe others internally don't see the process as being broken, which is kind of sad. When we were texting, you were like, you were kind of aghast, Ryan. Almost like you're like, this is WWE's answer to Double or Nothing. And I responded to you, maybe they just don't care. They've got these large guaranteed revenue streams coming in. Okay, fine. Somebody else put on a good wrestling show. Big whoop. This is what we're doing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, maybe they're just like, whatever, this isn't good, but whatever. We're just going to do business as usual. But like, listening to Moxley, like, the infamous line now, oh, this is good shit. And then, he told the story of like producers high-fiving after one of the episodes during where the feud with him and Rollins was featured. And I thought that feud, I was pretty critical of it at the time on the show. And I thought it was a disaster. That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
That like you could look at this creative process and the results it has produced over the last couple of years and think it's good. Especially Vince McMahon.
They're so out of touch.
Like, I mean, and it does start with Vince. And a thing too is we should note, and he kind of looks. And anyone who knows anyone, if you know anyone in creative, you're aware of this. A lot of we hear, oh, these writers, they're just as unhappy as anybody. I think there are a lot of people in the building who know this ain't good, man. We're not putting on a good product.
Yeah.
But like for Vince McMahon to like, oh, this is good shit, and to be like proud of some of the stuff, given some of the things he's done in the past. I mean, say what you will about Vince McMahon. I mean, he's a successful businessman. Whether or not he should be more successful, whatever, that's a different podcast for a different day. I mean, he's had success in this industry. For him to, be happy with this current product is quite frankly depressing.
Yeah, I shouldn't say they're out of touch. It's Vince that's out of touch because everything goes through Vince. Moxley gets into that in the interview. And he talks about times where he's talking to like a writer and he's like, I'm going to do what? And then like the writer will admit like, yeah, it sucks. Like, I know it sucks, but there's nothing he can do about it.
Did you guys, when you guys were listening to the interview, did the thought cross your mind, and this has crossed my mind before I even listened to the interview, why are there so many writers and producers? I mean, we know why there are, just because it's the way they do it, but it really makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And a big takeaway I had is, you know why there's no semblance of long-term booking in this company? Because everybody's fighting over a shitty promo that the talent doesn't want to cut.
Yeah.
You know, like they're so focused on like, it's like the old expression, you don't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
You're so busy, you know, trying to get this tree to look good, and everyone thinks it sucks, that, you know, 6 months from now, you don't realize, you know, this forest makes no sense.
You know, well, yeah, the other way to look at it is, to use a wrestling term, I think everybody's trying to get their shit in. And, you know, if you do that in a wrestling match, it's probably not going to be very good or coherent or tell a story.
Yes.
And that's what's happening with, I think, the writers.
Too many cooks in the kitchen is another expression I have down here in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that in the WrestleMania build, where you could see that there were a lot of voices in the room. And while, you know, at the end, you know, when WrestleMania was over, maybe they got into the right spot with, you know, some of the baby faces going over. But man, the path they went to get there, it was confusing, and it was probably a byproduct of a lot of people. Like, somebody has an idea, and then maybe somebody else points out a flaw in that idea, and then that flaw is addressed in a way that the person who originally came up with the video wouldn't have done. And you got a big mess.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about like the promos and how they're scripted for these guys, like basically word for word anymore. He talks about in the interview how like when you're in with Triple H, you have a little more freedom, and we know some guys have more freedom than others with their promos. But there's a story he tells. You know, he talks a lot about getting language changed in his promos, but he just gets so frustrated because, I mean, they have writers that never come to TV too, that are, you know, in offices somewhere that he's never met. And he talks about like, why am I having some guy I've never met write my words for me? He's like, I know how to cut a wrestling promo. And he gets to the point where he's thinking like, what are we even doing here? Why do you even want me in the company? Like, I've wrestled before I got to WWE. I know how to draw people to a building. I know what to say. I know how to get the fans interested. And yet I have no freedom to do that. We've got this writing staff doing it for me, and they're not doing a good job at it. I thought that was pretty jarring and truthful. I also thought at one point he kind of alludes to the fact that they don't even have freedom with the matches. Like, it almost sounds like the matches are over scripted too. And
I didn't get that.
Yeah, there's one point where he talks about how he's looking forward to wrestling in AEW because he can wrestle, you know, whatever style he wants to. And if I'm not mistaken, he says something about like even the matches from the producers, they tell you how to wrestle. Like that's over scripted too. I always figured like they're given a finish and they're helped by the backstage producers on how to get to the finish, but it almost sounded like the matches are over scripted to me.
You know, come to think of it, I mean, what's a common complaint I always have, and I think we all have, many people have. The WWE style is very much plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like kind of a problem with it. It's like, okay, like, you know, and this actually goes beyond just WWE. It's a problem. Remember, I was talking about that Hangman Page Pac match last week, how I really just viewed it kind of as an average 2019 wrestling match with a bad finish. You know, it's kind of like, you know, there's not a lot of originality in the ring in wrestling today. And that's especially true in WWE, where it's like, you know, okay, we're going to, you know, kick out of finishers, you know, a lot of near falls. You know, everyone kind of works the same style, and it sort of just becomes emotionless and boring and not unique.
Yeah. Justin, anything else from the interview that stood out to you that was surprising or enlightening?
No, not really. I kind of covered everything. I guess the one thing was like he specifically talked about he was given a script with the word pooper scooper in it. and he knew that, you know, he's no way he's going to say that, but he knew he had to get that rewritten before Vince saw it, because if Vince sees pooper scooper, he's going to have to say it. And that just,
It's great.
Pretty telling. Yeah, pretty telling as to how out of touch Vince is.
There was one thing actually in there, and it's funny. I caught, not a lot of people talked about it initially in their reaction to the podcast I saw on Twitter, but Meltzer and Alvarez actually picked up on it, of all people. And they had the same thought I did. The EC3 story, he told us, it's toward the end of the podcast, and he's talking about how he was working with EC3 at the house shows, and he was supposed to be a heel, and he was getting cheered, and EC3 was supposed to be the babyface, he was getting booed. I'm interested to know if you guys had the same reaction. I'm listening to this. I actually remember I was in my garage when that, and the light bulb went off on my head. I said, oh my God, is that why management soured on EC3? Because like the crowd was booing him against Ambrose. And Meltzer and Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Radio yesterday had the same exact thought. Meltzer was confirming, oh no, that's true. Like he somehow has gotten some secondhand story of that yeah, that's why. And it makes sense, the timeline. I mean, because when you think about it, EC3 is everyone's like, oh, when Vince gets a look at this guy, he's going to push him to the moon. Like, what could have gone wrong? Everyone's like, what's gone wrong with this guy?
Mm-hmm.
That, in their world makes sense, which is, again, sad. To put a bow on it, and we were talking about this via text too, ripping WWE creative is the easy part. I think we all agree on what the problems are, but what about the solution? And the solution is, Moxley now has to deliver in AEW. We've already seen him get the superstar reaction. And by the way, seeing a guy show up in a different promotion, doesn't that really hammer home something I said on the program maybe a couple times last month? What a sham this superstar shakeup is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're going to, this guy's going to get moved from Raw to SmackDown. He's going to get a nice fresh coat of paint on him. It's going to be all like he's, it's like the old days when they move territories. Come on. Come on. So again, superstar shakeup, better in theory than in practice. But, if Moxley, you always want to say Ambrose, I'm going to be fighting that the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. But he got the superstar reaction. If he continues to come across as a star and do good work, again, what a signal that would be to guys in WWE who feel they aren't being used correctly. We always hear sometimes from the WWE, there's this debate about WWE. Is it the creative or maybe some of these guys just not that good? We hear that okay, well, the creative's not that good, but is this guy that good anyway? Like, is he really a big star, even if he had good creative? And we've already seen, and we're going to touch on this, I know, momentarily, what I would call major indictment of WWE creative, that being vis-a-vis the Cody versus Dustin match.
Oh, yeah.
When you compare what they did at Double or Nothing to what the match they had at Fastlane 2015. To be honest with you, if you're AEW, I thought this immediately when that match was over, and somebody else made this point on Twitter. Okay, if I'm AEW and I'm trying to sell, and I want maybe a group of, if I'm trying to attract some undercard guys from WWE to join, I show them Cody and Dustin at Double or Nothing. I'm like this, and this is what we can do for you. Look at what we were doing there, and then show them the Fastlane match, or do it in reverse. Maybe, I don't know. That's why they're running the promotion. I'm not. But, that's night and day. So that's the big thing. Ripping, Moxley now, okay, we all agree what he's saying is true. But, now he's got to go out and deliver. That's another important part of the puzzle, certainly.
Yeah. Well, it is well worth the listen. So
yes.
we don't often say, hey, go listen to this podcast on here. But if there's one wrestling podcast that's going to do more downloads than us this week, Talk Is Jericho is worth it for this interview.
I was just really entranced for whatever it was, the hour and a half or whatever. I mean, I could not stop. A lot of times, an hour and a half podcast, you can't make it through in one sitting. I couldn't stop. I absolutely blazed through the whole hour and a half.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to switch gears to AEW. Before we do that, let's hear from some more of our listeners who called in to talk about our 100th episode.
Hey guys, Derek here. Just want to wish you congratulations on 100 episodes. That is a great achievement for any podcast. Folks, Ryan, Justin, and Kyle are great people. They put on a great podcast talking professional wrestling, not just WWE, but professional wrestling. I got to hang out with these guys WrestleMania weekend last year, and we had a blast. Tons of beers were drank. I got to sit next to Kyle and really watch him take in a pro wrestling show, and sitting there at Evolve next to him was a lot of fun, and getting to hang out with Ryan Justin all day drinking beer was a great time. Folks, this is a great podcast. Support them on Patreon. Subscribe on iTunes. Do whatever you can to help these guys out. They put on a great show. Congratulations, guys. 100 episodes. I love you guys with all my heart and soul. And Bill Goldberg sucks.
This is Liam O'Rourke, author of Crazy Like a Fox, the definitive chronicle of Brian Pillman 20 years later, and more importantly today, a former 2-time guest on Top Rope Nation. And I'm here to congratulate you on 100 episodes, and for largely being a beacon of hope in an otherwise destitute wasteland of online wrestling coverage. When it comes to wrestling podcasts, most are awful, some are okay, and only a few are actually worth listening to, and you fit in that class. So I'm very, very glad that you guys have made it this far. So to Justin, who I missed on both of my appearances, to Ryan, who has an exquisite taste in Bloody Marys, and to my longtime friend Kyle Ross, who after all these years is still always right, on behalf of all the listeners, we love this show with all our heart and soul. Here's to the next 100.
All right, and there you heard from our good buddy Liam O'Rourke. Love that comment, Liam. Glad you enjoyed the Bloody Mary at the Hash House in Vegas. Guys, if you didn't check out Liam at StarCast over AEW weekend in Las Vegas, he was part of a panel on the life of Brian Pillman. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it or not. I watched it. Very good stuff. Check it out. It is available through Fight TV.
Did you guys get a chance to talk to Liam? Last week?
Here and there, like a little bit.
Yeah. Since he went.
Oh, not since he went. I was talking to him. I talked to him on DMs on Twitter a little bit while he was there.
Okay. Oh, no, yeah, he mentioned that. He told me something funny. I'll tell you off air.
Okay. I definitely want to get him on the show again here pretty soon, then maybe talk about the experience. But yeah, check that out. He was at StarCast. Liam's good friend of the show and has supported us ever since the very beginning. So appreciate that awesome voicemail he left us. So
a man that I believe is England's second best writer next to William Shakespeare.
There you go.
Recently passed Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
It's legit, man. We reviewed the book with him the first time he was on the show. I've said this many times. That Brian Pillman book he wrote is one of my all-time favorite wrestling books. Highly recommend. So AEW, obviously we're a few days past Double or Nothing, and we talked about doing a post show. We just didn't get around to scheduling it at a good time. But from this point forward, we will be doing pay-per-view reviews of all the shows, AEW, WWE, exclusively to Patreon. So that's another reason to support us on Patreon. I know on our regular feed here, our pay-per-view post shows in the past have been among our most downloaded shows. So if you want to get those for every show, patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. But it's been a few days. I thought we should still address it a little bit as far as, what's the state of AEW coming out of this show? Because last week, all we did was talk AEW. The pressure was on to put on a good show.
And they delivered.
They definitely delivered.
They over-delivered. Awesome. I mean, what a mark in their favor, given all that. We talked about that. Was the big theme of our show last week. Pressure's on.
Yeah.
And not only did they deliver, they hit a home run.
Yeah. Justin, you came over to my place to watch the show. Enjoyed a few adult beverages as we enjoyed AEW. What were your reactions after the show? I mean, I know we talked about it, but tell the listeners, what did you think of the show?
Oh, loved it. I got a little worried at first, which is kind of ridiculous because like first 3 or 4 matches, I was like, okay, this is fine. I mean, nothing it's really special. But then what really started pulling me in was the 3-on-3 ladies match, because that was something I had never seen before. And I gotta say, I just love it when they're going for a pinfall and the other team will go and just like try and hold back the opponent's team, because they all just kind of freeze frame. It's ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then like, man, Cody and Dustin reminded me, boy, if you bleed and you use it properly in the right match and the right storyline, that just adds so much to a wrestling match. And then, yeah, the tag team match was fantastic. Phoenix is just a stud. And then, the end was great. I thought Jericho Omega was a little underwhelming, but the end was good.
Yeah, and you called that one. You were leaning towards picking Jericho. You should never listen to me and Kyle on these prediction shows.
Yep,
Justin
done
joined.
doing that. Done doing that.
It was. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I wanted you to finish because I was going to go long for him there. On this.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say I thought the show started pretty average. The pre-show didn't impress me that much, and then I thought like maybe the first hour or so was okay, but it was nothing special. But man, then they ramped it up, and the last couple hours of that show were awesome. Like Justin said, I enjoyed the tag team match a lot. Love the Young Bucks. Thought that was a great match. Maybe it went a little long if you want to get really critical, but it was a really good match. I loved Dustin and Cody. Thought that was a great match. I like the main event too. Yeah, I thought they did everything that they needed to do. I can kind of see where they're going, where if you have Jericho against Hangman Page for the AEW title, this puts Hangman in there with an established star to make him legitimate and creates another star. Like everyone thinks Kenny's legitimate right now. So, I mean, that ramps up Hangman Page's character a little bit. So I can kind of understand why they went that direction. So, Kyle, give me your long form thoughts here.
Okay. So interested to hear that both of you were a little underwhelmed early on.
Yeah.
Because I actually texted a buddy after the best friends tag.
Sorry, I had to crack a beer for this.
No, I hear you. I'm very upset that, by the way, I'm done already. And my beer is like 3 floors down. But I texted my buddy Chad. I was like, is modern wrestling for me? Because I was seeing people on Twitter like heap a lot of praise on the first couple pay-per-view matches. And I'm like, these were fine, but like they weren't like blowing me away or like engaging me emotionally. I was just like, they're fine. I actually thought the first women's match with Britt Baker was probably the most WWE-ish thing on the show in the sense they had, the late addition to the match with Austin Long done by the authority figure. We had shots of the authority figure, that being Brandy, throughout the match. So, but like you guys, Justin put up, it was the Joshi match that really all of a sudden was like, okay, this is different.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And they did screw up the finish, but that's okay. And then Cody and Dustin, I talked about how into those promos that they did beforehand. And, and what did I talk about last week with AEW? What I wanted from this promotion. I want a promotion that can get me excited about something and then deliver on it. That's what's missing. Like WWE can give us good matches sometimes, but we didn't really care going in.
Mm-hmm.
Like Seth and AJ, for example, or something like that. But Cody and Dustin, I was anticipating it. And I'm going to say this right now. This is my match of the year right now. I'm backlogged in Japan. I'm not going to sit here and lie about that. So maybe I'll discover something. But I think the biggest mark in this match's favor is how hard it is to draw universal praise from all corners of the internet in 2019. I mean, think about it. Somebody like, you hear something hyped and then almost instantly or, somewhat instantly or at some point, people will start giving you some blowback. There'll be another core. Oh, well, let me tell you why it's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everyone loves this match.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've got a pretty carefully curated timeline on Twitter and like everybody, Jim Cornette, Dave Meltzer, different people who review matches that I follow. Everybody loves this match. It's the best, not only the best Cody Rhodes match ever, it's the best Dustin singles match ever. And he did it at age 50.
Yeah.
Hello.
They did such a great job of it. It felt kind of old and fresh at the same time. Like that match was a lot of just punches. And then like out of nowhere, they'd break out. And I'm sorry, I'm the worst wrestling fan. I don't know what the move is called, but I know John Cena tried it for a while. The little sunset flip slam thing that Dustin Rhodes broke out of nowhere.
Oh, the Canadian Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So it was just a perfect mixture of old and new.
Yeah, and it was a brawl. And the post-match promo, let's talk about this. It was if you don't know, it was heavily borrowed from Dusty on WCW Saturday Night in 1994. A promo he delivered to Dustin, which is like one of my probably top 5 favorite promos ever. So when he started cutting it, I started just chopping my buddy next to me. I said, "Holy fuck, he's stealing from the 1985." I mean, I just started losing it.
I need to watch another show with you, Kyle Ross.
Yeah. So that's not on the network if you've never seen it before. But if you just want to Google Dusty and Dustin Rhodes WCW Saturday Night 94, it'll come up. It is, other than like Ric Flair's return to Nitro in 98 and Bret Hart's, exclamation point on the heel turn the night after Mania 13, I cannot think of a promo I like more in wrestling history than that one Dusty cut.
For anybody trying to look it up, I believe it's The View Never Changes.
Yes, The View Never changes. Yes, The View Never changes. Yes. A real pot shot at Arn Anderson, actually, telling that. The only criticism, no, it is actually, the only, and it's really minor, criticism I would have is that Cody's character seems to fluctuate back and forth from face to heel. Like, he worked the match as a heel, but like the whole thing with him destroying the throne and doing the shot at Triple H, that's a babyface move for that crowd. Now, I'm not going to criticize it because it worked. It all worked. His work in the match worked. Some people thought it was Bush League, the throne thing. It drew a pop from the crowd. So, and if you're a WWE, first of all, this fucking tribalism that has erupted on Twitter.com needs to stop. And I mean right now. Like, I'm a fan of good wrestling. I'm not a fan, when WCW was better than WWF in 1996, do you think I gave a shit that I grew up watching WWF? No. So this whole tribalism thing, people and WWF, what do they lionize all the time? DX going to Norfolk and invading Nitro. So don't tell me that pot shots are out of bounds. Okay? For the record, I laughed at Triple H's pissant comment at the Hall of Fame. I have no problem with that. It all amuses me. As long as you're not doing it at the expense of getting over your own people on your own TV, I have zero problem with it. So that would be my only, but yeah, this is my match of the year so far. I thought it was just absolutely tremendous. What a performance by Dustin Rhodes at age 50. Again, can't say it enough. The Young Bucks, I love that match too. I know they can be divisive to some people. Are they the best tag team in the world? I'll answer that question with a question. Does it matter? Because
I think it matters for AEW because they're going to capitalize on tag team wrestling.
Okay. Hold on, though. They're viewed as stars, and they work a unique style. So it actually doesn't. So here's my point. I don't think it actually matters if they truly are, critics like us, if they truly are the best tag, if you think the Usos or whatever. Doesn't matter. Sometimes, and here's the key, people need to realize this doesn't apply just to wrestling, it applies to a lot of life. You can convince enough people that a narrative is true, it doesn't matter if it actually is. And so, if people buy into them, if they're promoted as such, and they continue to come across as stars, working their unique style. I know it's not a style for everybody. I know Jim Cornette hates it, but it doesn't matter if they're the best team or not. If you can convince people they are, then they're going to be fucking really effective.
Here, let me ask you guys something. So when we talk about success and what makes a wrestler the greatest of all time, we often say, the work rate of the matches. In the end, it doesn't matter. It's all about drawing money, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what comes up all the time?
Yes.
Couldn't you make the argument now that the Young Bucks are the greatest tag team in the history of professional wrestling? Because when it comes to drawing money, they got a company started. They got one of the richest 100 men in the United States or something to fund a new wrestling company that got on TNT, all because they promoted a show in Chicago last year that drew over 10,000 fans. They have this Being the Elite YouTube series that is incredibly popular. Are they the greatest tag team of all time by that definition? Haven't they technically drawn more money than any tag team ever?
Road Warriors would come to mind.
The
Well, they didn't get a company started though. That's why I'm just trying to bring that in.
But every company wanted them.
And they were just a slice of the pie too. It wasn't like just the Young Bucks, but
yeah, I agree. I'll co-sign on what Justin
I don't know
said.
about that. I don't know. I mean, they used everything they used to get the company started was the Young Bucks creation. Like being the elite is the Young Bucks deal, and that's where the success came from. That's where the following comes from.
Well, see, the bottom line is the fact that we're having this conversation about them is a gigantic mark in their favor. Like I said, it actually, I'll go back to my point. The answer to your question is irrelevant. If they get people to believe it, it doesn't matter what I say, actually. If enough people believe that they're the best tag team in the world, then more power to them.
Here, let me put it this way. So the Young Bucks, I think unquestionably at this point, are the best run tag team of all time, the best businessmen tag team wrestlers of all time. I mean, they've been making 7 figures reportedly on their own for years they have some of the best merch you can find outside of WWE and have for a number of years with the YouTube channel. I mean, there's never been a tag team in the history of wrestling that have done what they have done.
It's very unique, Mark. Yes, it's very unique the way they've marketed.
Now, you couldn't have done this in the 80s. That's the flip side of this. Like the Road Warriors, there was no YouTube. There wasn't a market for a new wrestling company.
They were just 2 big ass mofos that came out to Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean there wasn't the market for that to start a new company either at that time. So yeah, I understand there's flaws in the argument, but I just thought that might be an interesting topic though, because when it comes to drawing money, hell, they got the Khan family to start a whole new company. And there was other people involved in that, like Kenny and Cody and everything, but it all comes down to the Young Bucks, and they use their vehicle to get everything over. So it's pretty crazy when you think about it.
A couple more things I wanted to note on with this show. A guy who, this was kind of an ancillary performance, but I think it certainly deserves some praise. MJF, what a heel this guy is.
I was going to bring that up because the Bret Hart segment was legitimately a huge surprise to everyone. What a perfect way to unveil your world championship. And then MJF coming out there, he didn't miss a beat. This guy, didn't we see him? Was he on the Progress show last year that we went to?
Yeah, he was in the Battle Royal we saw.
Yeah, and we were super impressed. I had never really seen much of him before that last year during Mania weekend. We're like, this guy is awesome. Like, he cut some great heel promos. And when he came out during that Bret segment, I mean, Bret could hardly keep a straight face. The guy is so good.
Yes. So when he mocked Bret's the best there is, best there was, best there will be thing, it's funny you noted that because I did too. Bret's little smirk that he did to that, like they camera cut to Bret kind of had this smirk at him. I took that as a complete endorsement.
Oh yeah.
And what he was doing, like he was like, all right, I kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, for MJF, I mean, here's a guy, what an opportunity he was given. And he knocked it out of the park. I mean, we've seen guys, who it's their first big opportunity. Here, Bret Hart, I mean, one of the all-time greats, and we're having you come out here to confront him. And this guy, MJF, just hits it out of the damn park. My hat's off to him.
He's
and
unbelievable.
What a scarf.
Yeah, he is fantastic.
Oh, so the title picture. Justin did want to pick Jericho. And something I brought up last week, I noted, I think becomes really important moving forward. Chris Jericho has an IWGP title match coming on the horizon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Jericho's the inaugural AEW champion, okay? It makes a lot of sense to have, because you're paying him a lot of money. When we go back, because, we were thinking, Ryan, well, Omega, you want to make him the star. You don't have him lose out of the gate. But the casual fan that you're hoping to attract didn't see that show. They didn't see him lose. And you're paying Jericho a lot of money, right? To be a promotion. You got to get value. You got to get the value out of him. So I think there is value in him as the inaugural champion. You can have Omega, Moxley, Hangman Page, and Cody all chasing him at first. And I got to say something. Okay. If this Chris Jericho is able to politic, and maybe politics is the wrong word, but whatever, to a simultaneous reign as IWGP and AEW champion? Because I mean, that's the thing. If he's slated to win the AEW title, is he going to want to lose to Okada? We need to think about that. If Chris Jericho pulls that off, I will take anything negative back I ever said about this man, and we will do a 2-hour tribute to him because my hat's off to you, Chris. You truly are the best in the world if you can pull that off.
Do we know when that title match is? The IWGP?
Dominion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what? It's a few weeks.
Like June 9th or June
Yeah,
8th?
it's like less than 2 weeks from now. 10 days.
Yeah, I'm going to put him winning at 0.
And Moxley's working New Japan a couple days before that at the Best of the Super Juniors finals in Sumo Hall in Tokyo against Juice Robinson.
Okay, I mean, to your point, Justin. Justin is the man who gets the picks right, so that's scary right there. He gave Jericho's chances at none. But like, is there something to that? Like if he's going to be the first AEW champion, okay, you can say, well, the casual audience, they don't give a rat's ass what happens in Japan, but your core audience does.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Or am I wrong? Or do they go with Hangman Page? I don't know if that would be the right call. I don't know why you would go with because I don't know why you would go with Hangman Page instead of Kenny.
Well,
I get why you would go with Jericho, but I don't get why you would go Hangman Page over Kenny. Some people are like, oh, well, Hangman Page could be like their homegrown star. To the casual fan, Kenny Omega can be their homegrown star. Can be homegrown. They don't know. I know Kenny's a big star in wrestling right now, but to only people who watch wrestling.
Is there any kind of, God, I'm not going to be able to think of the word here, but putting it on Jericho to the casual fan, does that really feel all that big? Beans that like he was the champion of the second tier title in New Japan, and he's basically been a mid to top mid Carter in WWE for years now.
There is an argument.
WWE light.
There is an argument to be made there too. That's a very good point. People are gonna be like, oh, they're just like, any refugee from WWE can come here and get the title. Okay, I don't know.
Well, I don't think there's any chance of him winning it unless New Japan and AEW work out some kind of cooperation agreement, which they don't have right now.
Obviously, yes. If he were to do that, like he would job them, there'd be an agreement that he would.
Well, it's interesting though because like the New Japan comments have been that they have no agreement at this time, and it's like I feel like New Japan is going to get to a point they have to make a talent share agreement with AEW because. Have you noticed the interest in New Japan and how much it's fallen off, at least here in North America, ever since the AEW situation arose? I mean, they have this show kind of coming up in Dallas, this G1 show, and it is not moving tickets. I mean, you take the North American stars off the brand, and the interest that was growing in New Japan for all these years over here is really not there. I mean, they need that relationship.
Yeah, well, and Meltzer was really intimating on Wrestling Observer Radio that he thinks Jon Moxley is going to work the G1. So
interesting.
I thought that was kind of interesting because he picked up. I don't know what he knows. That's the thing. We don't know what he knows. But like he was like citing this comment, Moxley. Oh, I want to do some things that are out of my comfort zone, and he kept saying, "Oh, well, more out of anyone's comfort zone than a G1." What's the toughest thing in wrestling is working the G1.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see what lays in the weeks ahead for AEW, but I thought it was a hot start. I'm super pumped about it. It's good to feel like I hadn't been that excited to watch a wrestling show in a long time, and I thought it delivered, and I went back and I already watched some of it a second time. So yeah, I'm thrilled with AEW. Looking forward to their next show at the end of June. So
something that so here's something to keep in mind though moving forward. Everyone was fresh going to that show. Guys had been rested. They had not been working a lot, and they were able to go, a full 100 on that show. Once the weekly TV starts up, it's something interesting to see.
That will be the real test for sure, especially creatively. So
yes.
Before we switch gears and talk NXT here to kind of wrap things up this week, play a few more voicemails that were left for us from the listeners. Take it away.
Hello, Top Rope Nation podcast. My name is Jeremiah from the Nerd for Greed podcast. And I just want to say congratulations on your 100th episode. As a matter of fact, I actually done a 50th episode of my podcast as well. And just want to say congratulations on the milestone. I know for a fact that I have a lot of work to do. I know that we all have a lot of work to do. And I just want to say keep it up. And hopefully we will see you on the 200th episode of the Top Rope Nation podcast. So keep it up, guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Top Rope Nation. It's CVV Chris Van Vliet congratulating you on your 100th episode. That's incredible. That's certainly 100 episodes more than I've done. Here's to 100 more. Then 100 more after that. And then 100 more after that. And you get the point. Congrats, guys.
All right, so we heard from Chris Van Vliet there, guys. That was awesome. CVV, he was on the show a couple months ago. And actually, I think ironically, he was on the show when the news broke that Dean Ambrose was leaving WWE. And we kind of debated on that show whether it was a work or legitimate. And we all thought it was legitimate at the time, I believe. And man, I'm grateful that Chris Van Vliet called in because he was one of our best guests we've had on this show. And I see big things on the horizon for him. Always doing great wrestling interviews. He had a really funny one with MJF. We're just talking about MJF. He interviewed him recently, and that's a
His
good
latest
one.
one is with TJP.
Yeah.
Just
so
rough.
he is doing big things. I would not be shocked to see him hired in the future by a wrestling promotion because he's an excellent broadcaster and doing a lot in the wrestling world right now. So thanks for the shout out, Mr. Van Vliet. Very much appreciate it. And we're going to switch gears here to NXT. So before we get to the preview for NXT TakeOver and pick the winners for Saturday night, a quick talk on NXT. Where is the brand at right now? I think over the course of this podcast, when we started the podcast, the brand was super hot. Then they went through kind of a down period, at least for NXT, a down period. I feel like the brand has really rebuilt itself at this point and is incredible again. Justin, where would you say NXT is at right now for you?
Oh man. It definitely feels like there's change coming. I don't know what that change is, if it's a change of wrestlers, because we've got some guys that have been there for quite a while. Like in the old NXT, some of these guys would be gone already. So it's going to be interesting to see if it actually becomes more of a brand, especially when you have Tyler Breeze coming back, and it sounds like he's an NXT superstar now. Maybe Undisputed Era sticks in NXT for another couple of years. It's just going to be interesting to see if it becomes a more long-term home for some of these wrestlers, since it's not really a 100% developmental brand anymore.
Well, you want to talk about a brand split? This is the real brand split. I mean, this is a place you can actually send people to freshen them up and give them something fresh where it actually does feel like a different brand. Raw and SmackDown, they feel like the same thing, but when you go down to NXT, it is much, much different. So, Kyle, where are you at with NXT right now?
Okay, well, I earlier in the show talked about you, Ryan, being somewhat aghast at WWE's answer to Double or Nothing via Raw and SmackDown. Well, to me, this TakeOver show is, if there is going to be a quote-unquote answer to Double or Nothing.
Well, God, I hope so, because I don't know if you saw, WWE is advertising on television this week. They have a brand new McMahon segment coming. That's what they think is the answer to AEW. So.
Well, who knows? But so I guess I kind of have a little bit of a different view of NXT, or something I want to break. I guess I don't think either of you touched on. I guess kind of a different approach to NXT. Okay. Number one, I do feel there is a lack of buzz going into this 25th TakeOver. I don't know if has something to do with that. It's the first time in a long time it's not a part of a full WWE weekend. Always it's grouped into a big four, because of the Money in the Bank change. It's just a standalone for NXT this weekend. So I don't know if that has something to do with it or not. think there's a lot of people who think NXT may have peaked. And I'm one of those people. I want to raise this question here. We've said on this program, and it was raised elsewhere. It might have been in that Deadspin article. But, people have referred to WWE as a whole as, quote, idiot-proof when it comes to making money because of those large guaranteed revenue streams. I pose to you two the question, is NXT booking idiot-proof? In the sense that the roster's very talented. The TV's very basic. All you have to do is announce a takeover match, have each guy kind of do one thing, and you're there. Like, it's almost kind of a running joke where people are like, oh, there's, I forgot about TakeOver this week, or, I haven't even been watching NXT TV. And then when TakeOver's done, everyone's like, oh my God, that was like the best show.
Yeah.
That's like kind of like, it's kind of a rinse repeat thing.
Yeah.
And I got to say something, man. People are really critical of this main roster creative as they should be. Has NXT creative been that great for a while now? I binged a lot of the TV this week. I did not watch the Go Home show yet. Hopefully the hype is stepped up for that. The TakeOver hype, that is. And I'm really excited to watch this Kushida-Drew Gulak match. Love Drew Gulak with all my heart and soul. But, the creative for a while has been just kind of like, blah. Like, it just sort of relies on the fact that they've got a very talented roster, and you put these guys against each other to take over, and it's going to deliver.
I think they've always had times like that where the storytelling isn't there, and they rely more on the excitement of new stars or the potential of new stars. And I think they're in one of those periods.
Okay. If AEW really gets the storytelling element down, is that going to hurt NXT? In the sense that, everyone's so focused on what AEW could do to the main roster WWE. And I don't know. To me, I think that's still a long-term thing. AEW's got a long way to go till it, can affect the monster that is WWE. But, that's not talked about enough, in my opinion, is the AEW effect on NXT. And, TakeOver, obviously everyone's like, oh my God, NXT is just, it's so much, their kind of creative process is so much better than the main roster. Oh my God, NXT is so much better than the main roster. Well, yeah, there's, most wrestling is probably better than the WWE main roster, right? So, at least, in the last couple months. But what if there's an alternative all of a sudden? And people are like, oh, maybe TakeOver NXT isn't the best thing. Because, to me, it's not that, the creative process is awesome in NXT. It's just sort of, again, maybe it's idiot-proof. It's pretty basic.
It's basically, NXT is almost like the only territory where you have guys coming and going a lot, which that makes it feel fresh.
Yes, and that's huge. That is so huge compared to the main roster.
And I don't think, as far as AEW is concerned, I don't think NXT is the one in danger. I think it's Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would agree with that.
Yes, absolutely. In danger, I guess. Let me clarify. In the arena of critical praise, NXT is obviously. It's people don't talk about this. NXT is not a moneymaker, okay, but it's supplemented by the WWE, so it's not going anywhere. But in terms of the critical praise, because what's this show on Saturday going to be compared to?
Yeah, they're a week apart.
It's going to be compared to Double or Nothing. Mm-hmm. And if it falls short, all of a sudden, the golden child of Triple H, I'm interested to see. I
don't know that. When was the last time an NXT TakeOver disappointed? And even though this one doesn't have buzz, you look at that card and there's, 3 matches there that could totally tear the house down easy. And that's really, when it comes down to it, that's all we really want from NXT is for these takeovers to deliver. Because I think there's a lot of people that don't watch the show regularly.
Oh yeah. My God, NXT UK. I think there's it might be Walter's mother, and that's about it.
I think that's a great point, Justin. Because I think that I think there's a huge overlap between the NXT fans and the AEW fans, but I think a lot of those people don't watch the main roster too. Like I think a lot of the AEW fan base right now are the people super like frustrated with WWE, maybe have completely tuned out of WWE, but those people will watch NXT still because NXT gives them what they want in the ring between the ropes, and WWE doesn't give them that a lot because, as we talked about earlier, it's a lot of the matches in WWE are the same thing. We've talked about in the past how you bring up guys from NXT to the main roster and they aren't allowed to do what made them great in NXT. The style gets toned down. But what happens in NXT is similar, like ring style to AEW. And I feel like there's a big overlap there. So the most vocal anti-WWE AEW fans will still watch TakeOver.
There's still some samesies stuff with NXT. They've got their own little formulas in some way, though. And I think Justin's right about NXT. We've talked about this before in the program. There is a massive gap between people who watch main roster WWE and watch NXT, which I mean is to be expected. But I mean, it's way more massive than people realize. I mean, I think people love the takeovers, but week to week, there's not a lot of discussion about the NXT TV show.
Well, it's the hardcores that watch NXT and that watch AEW, and it's the more general audience that watches WWE, and it's the general audience that WWE books their television shows for. Whereas NXT is aimed more at the hardcores because that's their audience.
There's not really much of a casual audience though anymore.
Well, that's true, but there is, though. I mean, you just said it. Look at the numbers. The amount of people that watch Raw versus the amount of people that watch NXT is drastically different.
Yeah.
So it's the most hardcore audience.
I would say it's almost like hardcores and most hardcores at this point. I mean, I just, John down the street, I don't think just, what's going on in Raw this week? I don't know how much that happens.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But, I mean, to be positive now, because I know we're going to talk about this, when you look at the last, 4 years of WWE, I think it's absolutely fair to say 80% of the top matches have come from NXT. And I know we're about to get into that.
Yeah, we're going to talk.
I would almost put that higher than 80%.
Oof. I guess maybe I was being concerned. I was just I didn't want to be ridiculous, 99% or 100. I didn't want to do that. I mean, it may be it. I mean, because NXT, if you go back, I'd love, I don't have Meltzer's site open right now. How many years in a row has it been? It probably goes back to 2015, where the top rated WWE match and the match of the year voting is from NXT, not main roster.
Yeah.
Because I've got, some of these in here, and I've got matches from, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. And, I struggled to think of better main roster matches from that year than what I've got laid out here on my list.
So what you're hinting at there is we're about to start a conversation of the top NXT TakeOver matches of all time, and we're going to parlay that into our TakeOver preview here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we'll just throw it around the table. What are your favorite TakeOver matches of all time? This is kind of a historic TakeOver show. I thought a lot about this today, especially, and it's super hard to pick an all-time favorite NXT match because I got so many.
The top 10, is sick.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone want to start? Or do you guys want me to start?
Well, I can tell you what my favorite is.
Okay, go ahead.
You want to start there?
Sure.
Nakamura versus Sami Zayn at Dallas.
That's in my top 5 for sure. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know. I've been going back and forth on this. The Dunn Bate match from NXT Chicago. I love that match.
That's my top 3.
Yeah, I think that might be. I think if I looked at all the TakeOver matches and the ones that I rewatched the most, it's probably that one. Honestly, I really like that match. That one, Sasha Bailey and Brooklyn, the tag match that you mentioned earlier today in our text thread in Toronto, DIY and the Revival. Great match.
God damn it. What have they done to the Revival in the main roster? I actually got kind of actively angry. And I was enjoying it so much. And then I thought of the Revival in the main roster, and then I wanted to hit somebody.
And it's hard not to mention Gargano, Ciampa, and New Orleans. I know Kyle's just going to rub it in that he was there, but I got to throw it out there. Just freaking love that match as well. Gargano and Andrade. I mean, all of these are top tier for me.
So it's funny. I think we would all agree on, because it's funny, every match that you guys both mentioned, I have on my list. So, I think we would all come. I think there's probably a general consensus, like I said, about the top 10 or so. But what's so unique is I think we would all have them in a different order. And that's okay. It's like, it's not one of those things that I would like die on a cross. If like you had like, if a match that I had number 5 or have in my honorable mention, you had it number 1, I wouldn't. I think these are all just absolutely ridiculous matches. And it just speaks to, kind of like Justin alluded to, the power of TakeOver.
I'll tell you one thing interesting looking at my list. 7 of my top 10 matches involve either Sami Zayn, Johnny Gargano, or the Revival.
Yeah, I think mine do too. I don't have that exact number. I mean,
you got the Sammy Cesaro match on there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
yes. God, do I love that match.
It's a great match too.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy, for me, I had a top 5. Honorable mention. These matches are not in my top 5, but I think deserve honorable mention. Gargano and Cole from this past TakeOver in New York. That Dave Meltzer called the best WWE match of all time. I hate that we live in a world where you're a hater. If you give a match, that somebody else thinks is the best ever for like 4.5 stars. Yeah, that's silly. The ladder match from New Orleans, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. I think the best modern WWE ladder match. Recent years. Bate versus Dunn. I felt terrible not having that in my top 5 from Chicago in 2017, but I didn't. It just missed. As far as top 5 goes, I had Sasha Bailey from Brooklyn at number 5. If you prefer the Iron Woman match, would not fight you over that. I think they're pretty close. I think Sasha healing on Izzy during that match is really outstanding. Number 4, Sami Zayn and Shinsuke. Justin alluded to this, and I would like to double down. We got to have some praise for this Sami Zayn and some of the early work he did in NXT. Not just the Cesaro match, but the one against that quitter Neville. That was. I mean, both of those were like that. Really started putting those two put TakeOver on the map. And I actually just rewatched Zayn Nakamura today. By the way, this match is also, of course, famous because it's the last time Shinsuke Nakamura ever tried in professional wrestling. But I gotta say, and I know I'm tough on him too. And by the way, it is kind of sad actually when you see the superstar reaction Nakamura got when he comes out for this and see where he's at today. It's kind of sad. And I know I'm tough on him, but part of me was thinking, after listening to that Moxley interview, has his love of the game been sapped? Does that have anything to do with it? At the same time, I will say this: if you go back and rewatch this, I think Sami Zayn outworked him here. I think Sami Zayn was like unreal in this match. Number 3 is Revival DIY from Toronto 2016. Don't forget about their Brooklyn match either at the TakeOver before. Number 2 is Gargano and Ciampa from New Orleans 2018, perhaps the best match I've ever seen live. And then number 1, Andrade and Johnny Gargano in Philly 2018.
Oh, wow.
That is the match that established Johnny Gargano to me as the best babyface in the world.
I
think that's screwed up, but that's okay.
I love that match. I love that match, but I put Gargano Ciampa above it just because it had the story, whereas Gargano Andrade didn't really have all that much of a story going into it.
Wouldn't fight you.
What's your top 5, Justin?
Actually,
or I can come back to you because I got mine ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I had Gargano and Andrade as number 6. Just missed my top 5. I got Shinsuke and Sammy at 5. Revival DIY from Toronto at 4. Gargano Ciampa from New Orleans at 3. Sasha Bailey at 2. And Dunn Bate number 1.
That Sasha Bailey match, it cannot be understated what that did for the ripple effect that had for women's wrestling at the company. I mean, you know, some people are like, oh, you know, maybe the moves are good, you know, seems dumb people, but like the historical significance of what they did just cannot be understated.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. I flirted back and forth putting that number one just because it had so much historical significance. And I don't know, it's just something about that Dunn Bate match or so many wow moments in that match just had me out of my chair. And I just, if I was going to pick an NXT match to just show someone that's not even a wrestling fan and say like, this is why this is so cool, I would put that one in.
You know what's an odd comparison that's going to be great for the purposes of this show, because we're going to talk Bash at the Beach in Top Rope Classics, Bash at the Beach 96. Do you know what an interesting comparison I can make with that match is Rey Psychosis from Bash, the opener of Bash at the Beach, in a sense that it was two opponents who were very familiar with each other, but were going out and working in front of a crowd that was unfamiliar with them, and they completely won them over.
Yeah, that's true. That is a really good comparison. I agree. Yeah. Kyle Ross, love you with all my heart and soul.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Justin, you got yours ready?
Yeah. 5, the North American ladder match from New Orleans. 4, Gargano Ciampa from New Orleans. 3, Dunn Bate. 2, Bailey and Sasha, just because of the ramifications. And 1, as I already said, Nakamura Zayn, because I don't think I've ever been more excited for a match that also delivered.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, our top 7 or 8 matches are all pretty much in line. I would probably put the ladder match from New Orleans at 7 on my list. I mean, that was right up there too. So
yeah, I mean, I think we all mentioned the same matches. We just had them like a different, like I said.
Yeah. So
I got a question that isn't in our show notes for you guys. Hoping I could just break this out.
Oh God, but I'm so over scripted, Justin Joy. I'm not sure if I can do this.
This isn't in my format, Tony.
What is the best takeover, and or like the 3 best takeovers? I got 5 in mind. I think there's 3 quintessential takeovers, and then I have my one favorite.
Well, I know New Orleans is my favorite yet again. God damn it, Kyle Ross, you can F off. I think New Orleans is my favorite just because I felt like they had 2 5-star matches on it. After that, I mean, they're all good. Like, it's really hard to I don't know. You go first, Kyle.
Shoot, that's hard because
that's really tough. I'd have to look back at the whole cards.
I know New Orleans is number 1.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You're right. It would be really hard for me to name the next 2. Justin, okay. I want to send it to Justin because he has answers, and then they'll jog my memory.
So I think there's 3 quintessential takeovers. The first one is Our Evolution. You have the debut of Kevin Owens, the debut of Demon Finn. You have, and then the Sami Zayn and Neville, the culmination of that fantastic storyline, and then the Kevin Owens. Yeah, at the end, Brooklyn 1 with Sasha Banks, and not only that, but like the thing I geeked out most about Brooklyn 1 was Jushin Liger, for obvious reasons that we've covered on this show a billion times. But him versus Breeze, you had the Cruise debut. I'm a mark for the Vaudevillains. I apologize. And then the third one is New Orleans, and I'd also give kudos to Dallas because of Nakamura's big debut, and then also the most recent one, New York had. I think New York had 3, if not 4, just amazing matches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my list. I think those are the essentials.
I think you have proven to be the NXT historian on this broadcast. I can't disagree with anything you said there. That brings it back a little bit. I kind of forgot about that the Arrival one.
Oh yeah. And also everybody go back and watch the Fatal 4-Way with Neville, Sami Zayn, and Breeze and Kid. Tyson Kidd did some freaking fantastic work in NXT. 2014 is an amazing NXT year.
Mm-hmm.
Can we all agree that the low point of NXT, though, is the, quote, music of NXT? God, do I hate that new theme.
Oh, like the brand theme?
Yes.
I was going to say, some of the talent have good themes down there. Yeah.
I'm from Iowa's own Slipknot, by the way.
Oh, man. Don't throw Iowa under the bus like that. Yeah, that's true. Iowa's own. All right. Let's Let's go into the NXT TakeOver preview. Let's give our predictions on these matches for this weekend. Before we do, it's our last batch of listener voicemails about episode 100. Let's play them.
Hey guys, it's your buddy Kyle from New Jersey. I just wanted to congratulate you on your landmark 100th episode. Keep up the great work, and I can't wait for episode 200.
Top Rope Nation, what's going on? It's Dalvin here. I want to thank you guys for answering my email question since I'm the only one who answers them. By the way, I do have a question this week. What would you guys say to MLW and NWA doing a War Games show together? I think it'd actually be pretty interesting. Anyway, congrats on 100 episodes. I'll see you guys around.
Top Rope Nation podcast. Congratulations on your 100th episode. This is your boy, Regular Scott, from Take a Knee for Marvel vs. DC. Again, just awesome. Great milestone. 100 episodes. Keep up the good work. Here's to 100 more. Also, I'm looking forward to having you guys on sometime to talk some wrestling with me. My co-host is pretty knowledgeable about comics. I'm a big wrestling guy, so it would be nice to change things up and talk some wrestling. But again, congratulations, 100 episodes. That's incredible. That's awesome. Keep up the good work. I got a beer in my hand. Here's to 100 more just for you.
All right, guys. So I just want to thank you all for calling in, taking the time out of your day to just leave us a nice message about hitting episode 100. This show is not possible without the listeners. We very much appreciate the growing audience we've had and the dedicated audience we've had all through these 100 episodes. Your support means the world to us. Thank you very much for that. And NXT TakeOver 25, Saturday night. So let's just run through them here quickly. Our picks, brief thoughts on each match. We've got, let's see, 5 matches on the card. We'll start it off with Matt Riddle and Roderick Strong. So on television, they've teased some dissension with the Undisputed Era. It would appear that they're on the same page here. Riddle and Strong around the board here. What are the thoughts, Kyle? What do you got on this match?
This is the match I'm actually looking forward to the most on the card. Love Roderick Strong. Don't seem as a high upside guy on the main roster, but that shouldn't mean that we don't appreciate his work. Meltzer has reported that Riddle is in line for a shot at the title, NXT title at the Toronto show, so it would make sense for him to win.
Okay. Justin.
Yeah, I'm also very much looking forward to this match. These two are going to beat the holy hell out of each other. I also think Riddle's going to get this one.
Yes. Also my pick. I don't know if any dissension with the stable will rear its head in this one, but I got to go with Riddle.
I think they'll go back to that after this show.
Yeah. All right. So we're all on the same page there. I'm glad I picked the same as Justin Joint. Otherwise, I might be screwed. So thank you, Justin. NXT North American title, Velveteen Dream, the champion, taking on the returning Tyler Breeze. I'm looking forward to seeing Tyler Breeze, pick up some steam in NXT yet again. Never really had a chance on the main roster. He was awesome in his first NXT run. And these are two characters that could produce some entertaining television together and have. So I think I will go with the Velveteen Dream here, though. I think he'll retain the title. Kyle?
Yeah, Dream. Real interesting. If Breeze has a kick-ass performance here, wouldn't that be an indictment of the main roster from your own company?
Yes. No
yeah,
kidding.
I gotta say though, I watched the segment earlier today that set this up. Man, Tyler Breeze, he didn't get a fair shake on the main roster. I mean, remember, they brought him in and they just he was actually the start of the trend where he was immediately just typecast as a lower mid-card guy. I think hurt a lot of subsequent call-ups, but he didn't Dream got a lot of lines in about oh, you were in catering, just because you're used to being in catering on Monday and Tuesday. That doesn't mean you can come to my show and tell the Dream what to do. Breeze kind of almost cut too close to home, where Breeze didn't feel like a big star at all. So he has a lot to prove in this match, and I think that's the thing to look for. Man, they could use the Dream on the main roster, but we know how that goes sometimes.
Yeah. Justin.
So, boy, doesn't this feel like going back to our conversation of a couple weeks ago when we were talking about how Triple H has been liking and unliking negative tweets towards Vince?
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that he does not make a superstar out of Tyler Breeze, or that he does not at least give Tyler Breeze a chance to remind everybody that he can fucking work. I mean, he is a great worker. He can put on a match. I don't think he's going to go over, but these guys are going to go, and I think Breeze could have a nice little run in NXT coming up here.
Justin Join is getting hot.
By the way, if he does, let's say he does, which
Tyler Breeze brings it out of him.
How many guys are going to be that are sitting there doing nothing? NXT alums, we should specify. They're sitting there on the main roster doing nothing. Are going to be like, I mean, obviously there's a difference. I would love to know what Tyler Breeze's pay structure is right now. Did he maintain the same pay structure and he just got to go back to NXT? Because if other guys can get that deal, or all of a sudden other guys will be saying, "Hey, I want that deal. I want to go back to NXT, and I want to make main roster money."
No doubt. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's interesting. By the way, a common complaint I get from lapsed like buddies of mine that are lapsed fans, are that there's, where are the characters in wrestling? There's no kid. Do you ever get you guys have friends like this, right?
Yeah, like people will say, "Oh, what's their gimmick?"
Yeah,
it's like, what's the character?
I've had said there, and a buddy who was watching Royal Rumble. He's like, "Why is everyone just a name?" And I don't know if that was the best take, but but still, it's a common criticism. Tyler Breeze has this, I don't know if it's like the greatest gimmick in the world, but it was a gimmick. And I was really surprised. I guess it was just a case of Vince just not getting it.
Yeah.
I mean, like the selfie, did he not get the selfie stick? But because, yeah. I don't know.
He gets pooper scoopers, but not selfie sticks.
Yeah. Sad.
Very sad. All right. The four-way with the NXT tag titles, the ladder match. Got a chance to tear it down here. So we've got Birch and Lorcan versus the Street Profits versus Forgotten Sons versus Fish and O'Reilly of the Undisputed Era. To win the tag team titles, by the way, I should say, because obviously the what are they now? The Viking Raiders.
Yes, I do not like what they did with that situation with them not losing on the way out.
That is problematic. So we've got the titles vacated. Someone's going to emerge the champions here. Go ahead, Kyle. What are your thoughts?
I absolutely fucking love the Street Profits right now. I'll go so far as to say, if you want to talk, we use this term a lot when talking about NXT talent, upside, ceiling. Looking at those buzzwords, I think you could make a strong case that the main roster call up the wrong WWE team or NXT team. I think the Street Profits have a far higher upside than the Viking Raiders. Angelo Dawkins in particular seems to have really benefited from his time at Evolve. This is the time to build the tag division around the Street Profits. I think they get the win. Looking at the other teams, I love Birch and Lorcan. By the way, remember the name, or Oni Lorcan, coming up a little bit later in the show, because we may be talking about him again. But, they don't feel like a high upside team. The Forgotten Sons, bless their souls. This is another situation where Triple H needs to be honest with people. I give them next to 0% chance of any success in the main roster. I think Vince would look at, if they got called up, Vince would be like, "Paul, I told you I don't like sanity." I just feel like that's the conversation that would happen. And Fish and O'Reilly, yeah, I mean, obviously great tag team, but that just feels kind of like been there, done that, maybe with the Undisputed Era. Not to say that would be a bad thing. So I'm all about the Street Profits here. I think this could be, with the ladder match, a real showcase for the stud that is Montez Ford.
Okay, Justin.
Well, I'm of two minds as to what the show is going to try and accomplish. And one part of me thinks, do you kind of keep sowing the seeds of dissension amongst the Undisputed Era, and the show ends with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish wearing titles, whereas Roderick Strong loses his match with Riddle? That's one thought. Otherwise, you just go with all of them losing, and that kind of just breaks everything apart. My gut tells me the Street Profits. I'm with Kyle. I freaking love them. Montez Ford is just a stud. So yeah, Street Profits.
Yeah, I also think Street Profits is the way to kind of start a new era, freshen it up a little bit. So I would go with them as well. Speaking of starting a new era, are we going to continue along the same path? The NXT women's title match. So Baszler defending against Io Shirai. What do we think about this one? Let me throw it to Justin first on this one, because more often than not, Baszler has dominated the women's division for over a year now. She lost the title briefly, but got it back. Who do you see winning here, Justin?
It's tough to say because I don't know why you would take the title off Baszler at this point unless you're going to have, call her up. So maybe that's a possibility, but man, it just doesn't feel like I really like Shirai, but I don't know if it's quite the time yet. So I'm going to go with Baszler.
Okay, Kyle.
Justin brings up a very good point, and I'm going to take it a step further. It feels like whomever loses this match almost kind of has to go to the main roster, because what do they do? I mean, I guess you could keep having Io chase, but like, man, this NXT women's division is kind of deep and backlogged to just have somebody chasing. I'm surprised Baszler hasn't been called up. She is certainly more than main roster ready. Now, if she gets called up, is the whole package called up with Duke and Shafir? That would be something interesting. There's an interesting argument too with Io. If she got called up, look, man, I got to word this carefully. So to do that, I'm going to use Vince McMahon. In Vince's eyes, would that be too many Japanese women on the main roster? Like, you just had the team, like, and remember, there's heat with Io and Asuka. And is Asuka then going to be pissed that she's in a tag team and Io's a single? That doesn't make a lot of sense, actually. So I've actually talked myself out of Io getting called up at all. This is the hardest match to call for me. I'm going to say title change and Baszler gets called up.
So would that have been a mistake to not call her up while Rousey was there?
Yes.
Because you talk about bringing the rest of the horsewomen up, and it's like, why did they do when Rousey was there?
Know what? Like how I have already gone back and retconned that whole debate that they fucked up. They should have done horsewomen versus horsewomen in the middle of that feud. It should have been Ronda and Becky one-on-one WrestleMania. I've already completely, I said I would give it a chance, building the main event, let's see where it goes. Well, hey, it doesn't matter if it's a three-way. It doesn't matter if it's Becky or Ronda, because they're ending up with just Becky standing tall in the end anyway. I've gone back now and reevaluated the whole process. They did it wrong.
Yeah, I can't imagine them calling up Io Shirai right now, because why wouldn't they have just called them up together with the Sky Pirates?
Yes, that's very true. You're right. So I actually decided that was a bad take.
I can see that. I can see in their mind saying all right, we lost Ronda, so we bring up Baszler to kind of fill that slot. So
if Becky, Lacey Evans, who was allegedly the toast of the town, has done multiple TV jobs.
Yeah.
You probably need, and it's a ready-made storyline. Shayna's here for revenge for Ronda.
So you're going with the title change?
Yes.
And Justin, your pick?
Baszler.
Okay. Oh, man. Do I go with Justin Joynt and his stellar track record? Kind of talked to myself. I was initially going to pick Baszler, and I'm talking myself out of it by thinking about call-ups. You know what? But Lacey just got there, so I know what's happened on TV lately, but I think I'm still going to pick Baszler. We shall see, though. That is a really tough call. All right, and then the main event, Johnny Gargano defending against Adam Cole. We know these two can work. It could be a great match yet again between the two. I don't know. I feel like Gargano's going to hold the title throughout the summer into SummerSlam, so I'm going to go with Johnny Gargano just on that basis alone. Justin?
Oh, man. You always have the babyface chase. How interesting is Gargano as champion going to be? And how many times can Adam Cole, lose these big time matches. I mean, it feels like he's got to have something. And if you really want to shock people, the answer to AEW, I don't know if it's Gargano winning here. I'm going to go Cole.
Wow. Oh boy, I think there could be an Adam Cole title change now because I feel like pretty adamant about Gargano. I think he's the face of the brand. I think you just roll with him. And then Undisputed Era, I think the answer of what do you do with Adam Cole? I think you just do the breakup angle, which doesn't need a title.
Mm-hmm.
True. True. Yeah. Maybe, you know what? Maybe you're talking me out of it.
No. Just enjoy it.
That never works. If I talk you out of it, if I talk you out of it, then our listeners should bet their mortgage on Adam Cole.
That's for sure. Don't listen, Justin. Go with your gut. I'm still going with Gargano, but Justin usually
he just won it. He just won it.
Yeah, you're right. Gargano. 100%.
Adam Cole's definitely winning. All right, so we're all on Gargano then?
Yep.
All right. That's NXT TakeOver 25, guys. All right, we'll see what happens on Saturday night. And we'll be talking classic wrestling this weekend with the Patreon show. But before we get to that, speaking of classic wrestling, I think it is time for, as it's still branded, we might get into this, the Kyle Ross I Love This Sport match of the week. Take it away, Kyle.
Not going to be that classic this week. A little bit of a heads up. So I just want to let everyone know what this is. Like, it's kind of been like a lot of, I love every match that I watch, but they've kind of been like some oddball. Like, this is not to like say, you know what my match of the week is like Hart Austin from WrestleMania 13. I just figure you've all seen that. So I almost think this is more of an I Love This Sport deep dive of the week.
Ooh, so Hart Austin from Survivor Series?
Oh, there we go.
That's a great one as well.
Yeah. So, maybe we can go with that. Because, I'm not going to say, what's a really good match you guys should check out is the first Hell in a Cell between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker.
Did you know the first Hell in a Cell had Shawn Michaels in it?
Yeah. So, no. So, that's I like to do some deep dives. I assume we've all seen the, if you're listening to a wrestling podcast, you've probably seen, the consensus great matches of all time. I'm trying to dig a little deep. That's what makes me love this sport is deep dives. So the I Love This Sport deep dive of the week is, of course, I always like to try to tie it into what we talked about this week. And we just spent a lot of time talking about NXT, and it is an NXT match, but it is not a TakeOver match. Obviously, you can feel free to watch any of the TakeOver matches Justin, Ryan, and I all just discussed. But I've got another one for you from NXT TV, April 5th of 2017. It is the kind of match that should be regularly featured on main roster television in terms of an extended squash and getting over a talent you are looking to push. They do not do these kind of matches at all, which makes me absolutely nauseous. But they did do it on NXT TV, and they actually do it. They do a pretty decent job of doing matches like this on NXT TV, and I think this is the best one they've ever done with this style. Drew McIntyre, who had just come back to the company, taking on Oni Lorcan.
Oh, I remember that match. I like it.
This is an extended squash to the nth degree. I love this match a lot.
You're hinting this was going to involve Oni Lorcan, so I was curious how would we get to that, but nice.
This is definitely Drew's best match since returning to the company. Singles match, I should preface. I really liked. Was that Hell in a Cell? Yeah, because it was the red Hell in a Cell. I remember that night. We were talking about the Drew and Dolph versus Seth and Dean tag match from that pay-per-view. Might be the best match Drew was involved in. But as far as singles matches goes, this was it, man. Now, Oni's a guy who, to me, should be put on, be brought to main roster TV to put guys over. He would excel in that role of making the other guy look good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Not done, though. Sad.
Yeah. All right. Check it out. If you have thoughts on it, tweet it to us at Top Rope Nation, or email us, topropenation@gmail.com. I don't have any emails to get through this week, but if you email the show, we'll read it on the air and discuss whatever is on your mind. I do want to mention I did throw a poll up on our Twitter account at the beginning of the broadcast asking, and this kind of gets back into the AEW theme, which of these companies has your interest more right now? And I put WWE, AEW, New Japan, or Ring of Honor. We got 352 votes as of now. And I saw Les Moore at Pro Wrestling retweeted it, so that got us some votes and a new audience there. 22% WWE, 71% AEW, 6% New Japan, and 1% Ring of Honor.
A fairly predictable result, though.
Yeah, I mean it's the hot thing right now.
So
but
we did not need Nate Silver and the fine folks at 538 to predict those results. I don't believe.
But yeah, it's pretty one-sided. So we'll see if AEW can continue that momentum.
And thank you, Les. By the way, I like Les more.
Yeah, they do a good show. So speaking of carrying the momentum forward, guys, hopefully we can carry that momentum forward. Get to episode 200. But we got our first 100 in the books, plus some extra side shows we've done. Top Rope Nation Classics, Top Rope Nation Extra over on Patreon. Once again, appreciate the support. Appreciate Kyle and Justin jumping on with me each and every week. And any parting comments, guys?
Believe it or not, I'm all out.
A lot of comments. I mean, it's been a long show.
My scripted promo ended, so I don't know. You smell really bad.
Yeah, put on the gas mask.
You all smell. You're real smelly, disgusting people.
Justin.
I need a pooper scooper.
Go Canada.
Go Canada. Hey, so yeah, we're cheering for the Toronto Raptors here on the broadcast. Sorry. You're out in California, which is our #1 most downloaded state. So
well, some say we're cheering for Canada tonight, if you know what I mean.
So again, hey guys, check out patreon.com/Top Rope Nation until June 30th. The $5 a month tier. You can fund the show. We're giving away a free t-shirt. $5 gets you a t-shirt and all of our bonus content. You can't lose. Patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. We'll be back with you with episode 101 next week. I want to thank our producers of the show, Derek Chappelle, Kyle Ryan, Tim Jensen, Forrest Pierce, Sean Skelton. Thanks for your support. And we will check you guys next week. Thanks for a great 100 episodes. Here's to 100 more.
Peace.